Welcome one more day to Space and Harmonia, an opportunity to know ourselves deeper and break all the spells of deception. And today I bring a fascinating subject for you. I would say it's one of the most important videos I have filmed. The version in Spanish has inspired several people, so I'm going to reproduce the information in English. Remember, this is a bilingual channel, and the subject of today is the return of the souls, what some people know as reincarnation, but we will have to see the differences between what reality tells us and what people believe. And we will also see the subject of the redemption of Adam and other interesting ideas that are very practical. And to start with, let's have a look at this stone labyrinth. It's much bigger than the one I showed you months ago. I completely ignore who made up all this. It might be kids oriented by some adult in modern times, or it might have several hundreds of years, who knows. In any case, the person who made this knows about the art of ancient labyrinths. Notice how this has 7 layers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 in the middle. Something which is very symbolic, peculiar. And this is not the only structure in this place. There is a smaller one down below. I'll show you, because it's very interesting and also perfect to describe the subject of today, because it seems the souls are trapped in the labyrinth of existence. And these stone configurations are a perfect symbol, representation of what I'm talking about, because they are a labyrinth. This one in particular has 4 layers. If we count the middle, it's smaller than the previous one, very similar to the one I showed you months ago. And who knows, it might be connected to some sort of ritual, society. In any case, we can't know for the moment. So without further delay, let's go in to explore the subject of today. Hello again, and as I said, we are going to explore the return of the soul, the redemption of the human soul. And first of all, we have to understand that nothing in nature repeats, everything is recycled, and what comes back never comes back in the same way. And this applies to the soul. Many people believe that when a person dies physically, the soul of that person reincarnates fully. So they say a person reincarnates, but this is not true, because what comes back is a component of the soul that needs to be rectified, purified, and there are several parts of the soul that we have to see. And this is very well explained in Hebrew wisdom. We are going to see that. It's not something theoretical. I have experienced it. Many other people have experienced it in some degree or another. And we can start with other traditions to see what people think and what's the connection between all these realizations, which are real. First of all, some people think this is an invention, but in some circles of psychology, there have been experiments where kids were hypnotized from the age of 3 years onwards, and some of them had memories of other existence, other lives, so to say. There have been amazing cases. In some situations, the gun of a crime has been discovered because what a kid remembers from other existence. There are surprising cases, as one girl that remembered living in a village that was not far from the place where she was living presently in India. And she was so insisting that her parents took her to that village. And she was able to point all the details, and all this was confirmed. So how that girl could know all the details of the house in which she had been living in other life. But the question is, what is returning? The whole soul, or memories, packages of information? And the truth is that when you go deep into traditions, you realize that some of them don't affirm the existence of the reincarnation of the whole soul. In India, for instance, there is the notion of Jivatman, which is a soul with several layers. And one of those layers is the causal body, Karana Sharira, which contains memories, samskaras, impressions. And that travels from one life to another, but it's not the person what reincarnates. It's a spiritual essence that comes back with information. And the same goes with Greek tradition. There exists the notion of Metemsomatosis, the transmigration of psychic components. Metem comes from meta, which is to transcend, and psychosis comes from psyche, soul, psyche. Actually, once Pythagoras said that he recognized one of his friends in the barking of a dog. He probably was joking, but this contains parts of the truth, because psychic components can go to animals as well, and even to plants and rocks. That's even said in Hebrew wisdom. And all this reminds me of Prometheus being chained to a rock by Zeus when he gave the divine fire to humanity. And an eagle ate up his liver over and over again because it regenerated. Well, this is connected to the vital soul, the Nefesh, which regenerates somehow. Now, there is also the notion of Metemsomatosis, which is the transcendence of physical features. And we see this in families when we hear, oh, you look like your granddad, or things like this. Obviously, in biology, this is explained with genes. Information is passed down biologically, and obviously the phenotype is the manifestation of the genotype. And this is a possible explanation of metemsomatosis, in my view. Now, as surprising as it might seem, the return of the soul was also present in early Christianity, specifically in the view of Father Origen, who was one of the first church fathers. And according to him, this explains why some souls have the inclination towards evil and other souls have the inclination towards good deeds. It depends on the virtues or vices acquired in previous existences. And this was accepted by other church fathers, such as Eusebius of Caesarea. But in later centuries, specifically in the 6th century, Emperor Justinian and his wife Theodora decided to forbid this vision because it's easier to control people with the doctrine of heaven and hell. Actually, they were influenced by the bishops who were advising Justinian. And the bishop said that if the soul had pre-existed, then no one needs Christ because they are immortal. So that doctrine had to be forbidden. And they actually forbade it. I will leave more details in the blog, themusicofwisdom.blogspot.com, also known as the Song of Reality. You have the link in the box of information. I will leave many more details on this, the return of the soul, and so on. But to give you a brief summary, Pope Vigil in that 6th century accepted the doctrine of the pre-existence of the soul, and the emperor wanted him to sign up a document that denied the existence of the soul in previous existences. And the Pope refused. He was imprisoned, and he was given a new chance to sign up the document in a council, but obviously he was not willing to do that, and when he was taken out of prison, he managed to escape. So this is an example of how the idea of reincarnation has been persecuted, and today many Christians don't even consider the possibility of some truth in it. They say those ideas come from the devil, but as I said, this is possible because of many memories people have. I remember things that don't belong to this existence, and even other versions of myself in other timelines, which is obviously connected to the repetition of this same timeline. And this repetition is known in Hebrew as Gilgul, the wheel of repetitions. Actually, there is a passage in the Bible which says that the existential verb, the Yud He Vav He, persecutes the sin of the fathers over the sons up to the 3rd and 4th generation. And as many sages realized, this is apparently a contradiction because the sons don't pay for the sins of the fathers. This is also written. So what is the 3rd and 4th generation? Rabbi Isaac Luria explained that passage saying that it has to do with the soul components. The 3rd and 4th generation has to do with the Ibur as well. Later on we'll see what that is. And there are obviously other passages that point to some repetition of some sort. Now, before going into all that, we have to understand what we are dealing with. Remember that many people have components of the soul of Adam that fell and became fragmented. Let's remember that the soul of humanity is known as Adam and descends from a group of beings that were called Adam, and they somehow mix up with this physical world, even though they were spiritual beings. But they had the ability to live in two worlds. They were amphibious, two lives, and they were actually symbolized with the fish. We are immersed in the waters of existence. These are the waters of the physical existence, but there are spiritual waters as well. And Adam was able to live in both environments, but he was mixed up with natures that gave him an evil inclination, Yetzer Hara, even though he had also a good inclination, Yetzer Atov. And this has to do with two types of soul. This is the key to understand what really happened. Remember how he received the breath of life, and the soul became a living soul, a Nefesh Chaya. Now in this case, he had two souls. One is known as Nefesh Elokit, which is the divine Nefesh, the divine vital soul, which is part of the Neshemah, the breath of life, and this belongs to the world of Beria, the world of creation. But he also had a Nefesh Behemit, which is the bestial animal soul. And the architects wanted to bring those two souls together to rectify the animal soul. So the Nefesh Elokit was meant to rectify the animal soul, but it was encapsulated by it. The animal soul is known as klipot, the shells that trap the divine soul. And this is the key of the mistake, because when you bring together two contrary natures and darkness is greater, obviously the light is going to fall. And this was the origin of the short circuit. In electricity, we find the same phenomena. And due to that short circuit, the soul of Adam became more and more trapped into this dual world. It became trapped in stages. Remember how first the soul of humanity was asleep, became asleep, and it was divided into man and woman. So the soul parts began to split up. And finally, the feminine part became fully identified with the physical world. So there we have a total fragmentation of the soul. This collective soul of humanity began to return over and over again in different races and different humans over time, and it fragmented more and more. And this is why it was said, from the dust of Adamah you were taken, and to the dust you will return. This is an allusion to this return of the soul, which is not the return of people, it's the return of soul components that need to be liberated because they are encapsulated in the klipot. Now, understand that there are three main parts of the Nefesh that need to be liberated. One is the vital part, and it's also known as Nefesh. So there is a Nefesh of the Nefesh. And remember that we are speaking about the divine Nefesh, which belongs to the Neshemah, the divine breath of life, a divine soul, we may also say. So notice that we are speaking about the Nefesh of the Nefesh of the Neshemah. Then we would have the second component, which is the emotional soul, the emotional wind, the Ruach. And in this case, it would be the Ruach of the Nefesh, of the Neshemah, of Adam, that needs to be corrected because it's trapped in klipot, in shells, that make the soul of Adam obscure. And the same happens with the mental component. There is a Neshemah of the Nefesh, of the Neshemah. And the Neshemah, or mental component of the Nefesh Elokit, is twisted by the klipot, by the shells, generating dark thoughts. So realize how thoughts are connected to the mental components, speech and emotions are connected to the emotional component, the Ruach, and actions are connected to the Nefesh, the vital component. So destructive actions, unconscious actions, affect the Nefesh of the Nefesh negatively. An improper speech, dark speech, affects the Ruach. And improper thoughts affect the Neshemah. It obscures the light, so the light cannot pass through ourselves if we have dark thoughts or visions. Thoughts are what becomes externalized in a speech. So in a sense, the Ruach is connected to the thoughts, and the Neshemah is connected to the vision. But from the vision come the thoughts. So realize that all these parts are connected. We cannot speak of separated parts, even though the klipot, the shells, generate a fragmentation. So there is a disconnection of mind, heart, and body action because of darkness. And this is why we act unconsciously. We have inherited these components in ourselves, and we are not aware of what we are doing usually. And this is why we repeat over and over again patterns of behavior that need to be corrected. And this rectification is what is known as tikkun, the repair. However, in the old paradigm, which belongs to the fallen Adamic soul, the Nefesh Elokit, or divine soul, must struggle with the animal soul in order to liberate the soul components that are trapped. There can be additional souls that attach to us. They are known as iburim. The ibur is an attachment that comes in help. And this ibur can be learning as well. It can be another part of the Adamic soul that comes to us as an attachment to help us evolve, as a guide. But obviously this is the old paradigm. It has nothing to do with the Messiah. The tragedy of mystical Judaism is that most sages think the Messiah did not arrive, and therefore they don't have the notion of a new Adam, which is already available to cancel all debt. All debts have been paid in the new Adam, because when Yeshua came as the Messiah, the head of the Messiah, he generated a new nature which combines the elevated nature of Adam, of fallen Adam, with the divine nature. And this generated a new Adam in which we are new creatures, so to say. We are given the possibility of acting from this new nature as part of the collective members of the body of the Messiah. When the Messiah went to the Father, he transmitted the information to all the light seeds that were meant to be connected to the human souls in order to rescue them. So, in a sense, he who receives the essence of the true Messiah, the true salvation of life, has a new soul available with the three parts completely pure. The pure action, the pure speech, the pure thoughts and vision. So, this is not a question of struggling in ourselves. This is more a question of connecting ourselves with the truth so that we can be liberated. Something in us must be immediately redeemed. And it is necessary to understand the difference between these two paradigms, because many people have accepted that the Messiah came, but then they get involved in ritual practices thinking that is meant to be part of the teaching of Yeshua. And this is not the case, because the actions, the ritual actions, are part of the old paradigm. And it's true that we must follow the commandments of the Messiah, but these commandments are internal. They are more transforming. So it doesn't matter how many weekly Shabbats you practice, if you don't experience inner Shabbat, Shabbat means rest. So that rest or serenity must be experienced during all the week. So this is not a question of doing external things, but realizing that something must be corrected inside. There must be a rectification. So if you are, for instance, addicted to alcohol, realize there is a higher mind and a higher heart, a higher vibration heart, so you can overcome that addiction. And if you one day decide not to drink alcohol, then you are rectifying. You are already being part of the purification, but with the help of the new nature, not with the help of the old nature, because you can be rectifying something, but you can be acquiring new obscurities. Actually, in Hebrew wisdom it is said that every night when we go to bed, the soul components that have been rectified return to the Neshemah, to the original soul, and we receive more components to be rectified. So it's a constant process of rectification. But if we realize that in the new Adam we are completely new and completely pure, then the viewpoint changes, because in this case we are not imperfect beings trying to become perfect. No, it's the other way around. Our true nature is a perfect being of light, an angelic messenger, so to say, which is being connected to a human soul personality that obviously has been trapped, and it has components that are not new. They are regenerated. They come back over and over again in different people, or even in the same person, because this timeline is just one version of other timelines that are similar. And I have memories of Fernando dying in other timelines. This means this has been repeating, and the other timelines were dead ends. This means Fernando did not flourish completely in the other timelines, so I'm somehow repeating the process. But there are also other lives, and pay very close attention because this is a fundamental key. Some people think the soul reincarnates from the past or from the future. But in reality, there is no past and there is no future, because everything is simultaneous. We already saw how this is possible with the dimensions. In the fourth dimension there is a whole line of events that are present, as well as in the fifth dimension all possibilities are there. Therefore, from the perspective of the divine soul, the Neshemah, everything takes place simultaneously. What we think as the past is taking place now for the soul. Everything I am now depends on what others have been before. And my divine soul is connected not only to Fernando, but also to other people in other ages, in the past, in what we think as the past, because all is simultaneous. Now, to give you a graphic example of all this, I recommend you to watch the movie The Secret of the Zohar. I don't know if it's available with English subtitles. If I find the link, I'll put it in the box of information. In any case, it's very good. The protagonist is a man that finds a manuscript of the Zohar, the soul of the Torah, when he is living in the Roman era. Actually, he is a Roman commander, a soldier, and when he begins to understand the Zohar, a process begins. His soul enters the so-called Gilgul, the wheel of rectification, and he begins to work in different ages. he becomes aware of different ages in which he is living. And it's very interesting because you see how he lives in the Roman era. He lives in the 18th century, I think, in Holland. He also lives in the 19th century as a soldier as well. He lives in the 20th century, where he experiences the era of the Nazis. Actually, he lives as a Jew, and he is killed by a Nazi. He also lives in another life of the 20th century in Russia, where he is taken to a psychiatric hospital because doctors think he is completely crazy. And actually, many people go crazy when they don't understand what is taking place, as they begin to wake up somehow. So notice that waking up is just the first step. Then you must understand what you must do. And if you try to work with the old paradigm, you can be repeating the process over and over again. Actually, in the movie, you will see that at the end something happens. I won't say what happens because I would destroy the movie, but notice how he's living a Gilgul, a wheel of return. And one of the most interesting parts of the movie is when his best version, his divine soul, Neshemah, tries to wake him up, speaking to him. So it's his higher dimensional being, so to say, trying to connect with the lower dimension being. And this is where the schizophrenia takes place. Sometimes we have the notion of something deeper, and we believe that we are awakened, but all of a sudden we sink down back again into the physical body. And then we get confused because things all of a sudden have no sense, have no meaning. This is why we need to be rescued by the new Adam, which is a collective body of rescue. And this has been taking place for 2,000 years. When the Master arrived, he gave us the opportunity to cancel the cycle, the Gilgul. Rabbi Isaac Luria also thought the cycle can be cancelled with an additional soul. Actually, he taught a form of Kabbalah which is messianic, but he did not speak of Yeshua, at least as some of us are speaking today. In any case, he explained the whole subject of reincarnation perfectly. His disciple Chaim Vital wrote a book known as Shaar Gilgulim, the gates of the cycles, the returns. It is translated as the gates of reincarnation, which is somehow confusing because soul components not always need to reincarnate. They can get into a subtle body, such as an astral body. Remember all I explained about the subtle bodies. We have a physical body, an energy body, but we can also develop an astral planetary body, a solar astral body, which already has the Neshemah, the mental component, and also a spiritual body, and receive the primordial body, which is the one that can take us out of all these. Remember also how the components of the soul that need to be rectified are the vital, emotional, and mental. But there are other degrees of soul. The life soul, known as Hayah, and the Yehida, the union with the infinite, which is the one Yeshua attained. He was connected to the Father. I and the Father are one. But we can have access to the spirit of life. So Hayah can be in us if we understand how we are members of the divine Messiah. But we must receive this intelligence. And we can understand this as the additional soul of the Messiah. We can think of the mind of the Messiah as the Neshemah, the mental aspect of the divine soul which is completely pure and perfect and can rectify our mental views and thoughts. And the same goes for the heart. There is a divine Ruach, a divine spirit that is full of love and compassion and can rectify everything we feel. And obviously our actions can rectify our vital soul, our human actions, when they perform the works that are meant for us since the divine origin. The Father wants for us a life of divine works, so to say. We must manifest our best version, the original I amness. And this is how we get safe on different levels. Let's say we are spiritually safe, but we are not fully safe in our human condition. We are saving the Nefesh Elokit that is trapped within the Nefesh Behemit, the animal Nefesh. Now, we must also realize that not all souls descend directly from the soul of Adam. This is also explained by Chaim Vital and Isaac Luria. There are souls that were contained in the collective soul of Adam, and they are known as old souls, even if they are not incarnated. When they are incarnated, they are still old souls, but also new in a sense. However, from the new paradigm, we can speak of new souls and new spirits, which are meant to be connected to us in order to rescue what was lost. Now understand that when Adam fell, he generated a type of soul spirit known as Cain Havel. Cain was the psychic carnal component, and Havel was the breath of conscience, and Havel was killed by Cain. So from them descended a type of soul beings that are not directly descended from Adam, but contain a nature that came from the fallen angels. And it's very interesting to see how in ancient times the fallen angels are associated with some traits of the human being, the white skin and also the blue eyes. This is connected to the fall of Adam, obviously, because Adam fell because of the union with the genes of those beings. In the Zohar they are known as Asa and Asael, even though Adam contained in himself angelic genes. In the Sumerian mythology, we are told about Enki, the Lord of the Earth, who made Adamu, and he sent Adapa. And Adapa, curiously, was represented as half man, half fish. So he was an amphibious being, because he could live in two environments, the spiritual environment and the earthly, physical environment. They probably had a different aspect. Maybe they were like amphibious beings. Actually, Adapa is connected to the Abgalu, the great beings of the waters, to Oneness, the fish being, the fish humanoid that came from the Persian Gulf to teach arts and sciences to humanity. Actually, the human civilization was developed with the help of those beings. And very interestingly, there are some stories associated with physical traits because of the mixing of those natures. In the book of Enoch, we are told about how Noah was born with white hair or blonde hair, and people were surprised. They wondered who was the father, and his father Lamech asked his father, Methuselah, and he said, well, ask to my father, Enoch. And Enoch told him that in his father's time there came beings from heaven, the so-called sons of Elohim, and they mix up with the daughters of Adam. The same story we find in Genesis 6. And this is the union of messengers of light that incarnated in physical bodies in order to teach something to humanity. Not all of them were the same. They had different teachings, doctrines, but from them come modern civilization, and also some physical traits, such as the blonde hair, the blue eyes, are associated with these beings, and also the white skin, which is connected to the Alvine people, the little people. England was known as Albion, the land of the white little people, which were also present in Ireland and in North America, South America. They are all over, but those beings mix up with other races, and that was the origin of all the races that we have: black, red, white. All the mixes derive from the earliest combinations of angelic beings with the soul of Adam, which also contain genes from previous existences that were destroyed. So we are a mix-up, and Adam was a hybrid himself. He had the Nefesh Elokit, the divine soul, and the bestial animal soul. This was the toy of the fallen architects. And from those toys, we are experiencing the present sufferings. Humanity is a toy for the gods as well. And were it not for the action of the Messiah, humanity would have been destroyed already. So we have to understand how even fallen Adam is being redeemed, because the descendants of Adam have components of Adam that need to be returned to the tree of life. And therefore, we are in a process of recycling, but also rectification, which is connected to the task of the Messiah. And for this, it's necessary to get fully immersed in the waters of existence. And 2,000 years ago, there was a symbol known as ichthys, which means fish in Greek. And it's an acronym for Jesus Christos Theou Soter, which means the Redeemer, Son of the Holy One, salvation of life. Because Jesus comes from Yeshu, Yeshua, which in Hebrew and Aramaic means salvation. Salvation by the divine birth of primordial love and modified life, integral conscience, and deep serenity. The serenity of Shabbat, rest, because there is no longer a struggle between the Nefesh Elokit, or divine soul, and the Nefesh Behemit, the animal soul. So as long as there is a struggle in us, we are subject to the passions of this world, the intelligence of the serpent, which bites our heel. This is a code for incarnation into the human body, the physical world. The serpent is the consciousness of the earth, and she bites up our heel, just as the physical world traps the soul, because the soul is symbolized by the foot. I mean, the Nefesh soul, the soul that is in the body, is symbolized by the feet. And the physical body is symbolized by the shoe. So the snake bites the heel, but we crush the head of the snake when we understand how she works, how she operates. The snake is the twisted intelligence of this world, which is very deceptive. And we cannot rely on the intelligence of the serpent, even though we must be as wise as serpents and gentle as doves, as the master advised. He also said, "Be like me, that I am gentle in heart. If you follow me, you will find rest, because easy is my yoke and light my burden." So we must find this additional help that we have in us. We must find ourselves as members of the new Adam and not fallen beings that descend from fallen Adam, because in fallen Adam there is only death. In the new Adam there is life, and there is no death in life. Death can trap parts of life, but death does not come from life. So this is the big realization that takes us out of this deceptive world. And for now, you have enough details. I will leave many more in the blog. Remember, you can access it in the box of information. It's known as the Song of Reality. And for the moment, thank you very much for listening with attention. Leave comments if you wish, ask questions. That promotes the channel. Give thumbs up if you found this video inspiring. Subscribe, click on the bell if you want to receive weekly notifications. And meanwhile, let's keep cleaning the mind, the heart, and our actions to manifest the primordial love and modified life, integral conscience, and deep, blissful serenity.